At 11:12 a.m., two men in crisp blue shirts walked up to my gate, slid a paper with a gold seal through the bars, and told me I had 10 minutes to leave my own land. 8 minutes later, the real deputies rolled in with sirens and steel, and the woman who sent those men to fake a court order watched her story fall apart in the span of a heartbeat. The kind of moment that looks quiet from the road, but feels like thunder when it lands inside your chest. I'm telling it now because people think this sort of thing only happens in movies, and because the way a person treats a boundary tells you everything you need to know about them, and because if you've ever been bullied by a title or a letterhead, you probably know exactly how my hands felt while I stood there, deciding not to fold. I'm no immerser, which means nothing to most folks. Just a guy who timed his days with calendar pings and fluorescent lights until I'd saved enough to trade the hum of a break room microwave for 5 acres of wind and birds and a future I could hold without asking permission. A field at the back edge of Maple Ridge Bluffs in Hawthorne County, California, where a ranch fence draws a line so simple a child could read it. This side mine, that side not. The first morning on that land felt like honest air coffee. Steaming survey flags blinking in the sun. The starter cabin, a stack of lumber and hope, and I remember thinking, this is how a life should sound. The soft grind of a post-hole auger, the call of a hawk. A man making something with his own 2 hands. Then I heard heels on gravel, and a voice tuned to carry like a school principal in a gym. And when I looked up, there she was, cream blazer clipboard, like a badge hair arranged with the kind of precision you see on magazine covers, and on either side of her 2 board members from the Homeowners Association. Trent, with shoulders like a door, and a phone already filming Hannah with careful eyes that kept sliding toward mine like she wanted to help, and wasn't sure how. Any construction here requires HOA approval, the woman said. And even before she gave her name, Vivian Cartwright, president of Maple Ridge Bluffs HOA, I could hear in the tone that this wasn't a conversation. It was an announcement the way some people talk when they're used to doors opening and heads nodding because they said so. I pulled up the county parcel map on my phone, the little blue outline that had kept me sane through escrow, and held it where she could see. This parcel is outside your HOA, I said even. And calm your boundary ends at that fence. My land starts here. And she refused to glance at the screen. She just looked past it, like a magician, ignoring the trap door you're pointing at while Trent zoomed his camera into my half-framed cabin, as if the plywood had insulted him personally, and Hannah tried to say, Vivian, maybe we should, before Vivian cut her off with just a name, sharp as a click. I kept my voice from doing what voices do when pride gets poked. I set a voice memo recording because a clean record beats a raised volume every day of the week. I knotted them off my boundary, and as soon as they were gone, I labeled the file Evidence Day -01, not because I wanted a fight, but because I've learned how fast polite lies turn to paperwork. You know what I mean. 4 days later, at 7:01 a.m., a white envelope with an embossed seal was taped to my gate like a trophy. Notice of violation in red across the top, as if typography could grant jurisdiction. And this elegant document insisted I owed $500 a day for my unauthorized structure, and required harmonized landscape plans, and included, helpfully, a payment portal link that Trent had underlined. I photographed the letter in place, slipped it into a plastic sleeve, saved screenshots of the county assessor parcel page, then called an attorney I'd met at a sustainability conference, a steady voice named Jordan Alvarez, who has a gift for turning panic into action. They have no jurisdiction on a parcel outside their recorded boundary. Jordan said, matter of fact, they can call a wreath a subpoena and it's still a wreath. Stay calm, document everything people who live on authority don't yield. When you show them a map, they escalate. That night, the community center across the line glowed like a stage, and from just inside my boundary, I recorded through the fence slats as Vivian projected a photo Trent had snapped of my cabin frame and labeled it Phase 1 of Industrial Development. Talking property. Values, noise, smells, trailer parks like a ghost story. And the heads in that room nodded, and the pens clicked on a petition to block any county permits requested by the trespasser. And I laughed, not because it was funny, but because sometimes absurdity hits you in the ribs, and either you laugh or you lose your breath. 2 nights later, at 2:08 a.m., the gate stood open like a broken arm. Dawn showed tire tracks curled through dew boot prints by my door. Fresh scratches around the lock, and the grainy night vision told a whole sermon. Trent with bolt cutters, a shorter figure testing windows, a third silhouette hanging back with a phone to her ear who didn't need a name tag. And I saved the clips, called 911. Met Sergeant Mark Calloway under a sky just turning gray. He had the face of a man who's seen neighbors end marriages over hedges and knows exactly which details matter. He photographed my fence and the tracks and the lock while I told him the story and the names, and he said it without drama. You can press charges. Upgrade your security folks who think they're right. Don't stop because paperwork says they're wrong. So I installed floods that lit the field like noon added 2 more cameras, and one with license plate capture upgraded the gate lock to something you insult with a grinder, not a pocket tool, and logged each step like I was prepping for a trial I didn't ask for. It should have been enough to make a point. It wasn't. The next evening the property went dark, like somebody unplugged the night the main line to my panel cut clean, where an experienced hand would cut the water valve handle. Gone, as if the earth swallowed it. 3 cameras painted black by someone who'd done that dance before. But the angles I'd tucked under the eaves stayed live, and the footage caught a younger guy in a reflective vest on the pole. Trent closing the water, and Vivian 30 feet back in the shadows, phone pressed to her cheek like a director watching Take 2. I froze. Frames grabbed the plate off a truck in the corner, saved everything to the cloud to a drive to a second drive, sent a link to Jordan, because one copy of the truth is too fragile in a world this stubborn. The voicemail landed in the morning like a bird that wasn't sure it could risk my windows. Mercer. This is Hannah Lee, she said, voice low and shaking. I can't keep quiet. She's planning something for tomorrow. She keeps saying you'll learn a lesson. You won't forget. I don't know what that means. Please be ready. Ready turned into a rural security team, installing 4 more 4K cameras and perimeter sensors, while I paced the fence line counting breaths and seconds, and it turned into a call to a contractor about a wall, not a cute pasture rail, a 10-foot concrete, and steel statement pinned to survey markers, so precise a skeptic would get bored trying to argue. The point wasn't spite, it was clarity, because life gets easier when a line can't be reimagined by whoever's loudest. The twist came late the next morning, Act 2 hitting its mark right on time. A white SUV with a light bar that looked official from a distance rolled up. 2 men stepped out in uniforms that would fool your aunt at Thanksgiving, and not a deputy in Hawthorne County. The taller one's name patch said, Officer Blake. The shorter one said, Officer Kim. And they carried themselves like men who had rehearsed in the mirror and liked what they saw. Court ordered dictate, Blake said, handing me a document with a gold seal. You have 10 minutes to gather essential belongings and leave. And he used the cadence of authority the way some people wear cologne to announce themselves, while Kim held a clipboard like a prop and told me there wasn't time for questions. I scanned the paper while my heart did the math. The case number format wasn't right for our county. The judge's signature wasn't a signature at all, but a perfect print. Anyone with a laser printer could love. The date was this morning. As if the courthouse were a drive-through, their badge numbers were wrong. Their shoes were the shiny leather you wear to a wedding, not the boots deputies sleep in. And for a second, I felt the floor tilt because fear likes to swing a room when it can. Then, I steadied it by doing the simplest thing you can do. I said, "I'm getting my lawyer's contact info. You can wait right here." Stepped inside, set my phone to live stream. To a folder Jordan could see in real time, dialed 911. And said the words you never think you'll say. 2 men impersonating officers at my gate. They're trying to force me off my property with a fake court order. I have live footage and plates from prior vandalism. The dispatcher's voice snapped awake. "Stay inside if you can, sir. Units en route." And through my window, I zoomed the camera across the line and caught a flash of cream behind a hedge binoculars, up phone to her ear. Vivian, watching her own plan, like a director who can't help calling for another angle. "Blake made a call. He's not cooperating. What do you want us to do?" And said it loud enough that my microphone didn't have to strain, which is how arrogance turns into evidence. You know what I mean. At 11:20, the real sirens hit 3 cruisers stopping with the soft, decisive slide that comes from repetition and training. And the first questions out of Sergeant Calloway's mouth cracked whatever composure those two had bought at a costume shop. Badge numbers, department supervisor, radio channel, and suddenly their voices had nowhere to go. But the truth, which is not where they lived. So their hands went behind them, and the stainless got to do what stainless does. I stepped out with my phone. Not to grandstand, just to hand a timeline to someone sworn to use it. Told Calloway I had footage of Blake receiving instructions, and of Vivian directing utility cuts, and of plates and contracts, and the meeting where she called me an industrial threat, while pointing at a picture of my plywood, and while a deputy jogged through the side gate to collect Vivian near the clubhouse exit. Another popped the trunk of the fake cruiser and pulled out a folder with 2 contracts inside. $2,000 per vacate operation, signed by both men and by Vivian Cartwright, in a hand so tidy it looked like confidence. Back at the station, a detective with eyes that did not miss things spread my drives and printouts across a table like a map, and said, "In 20 years, I don't see victims this prepared." And what she meant, I think, was more than good job filing. She meant you refuse to let the person with the loudest voice tell the only version. But here's the part that sticks to your ribs. When the cuffs went on, a quiet fell across Maple Ridge, like a curtain neighbors gathered behind hedges, husbands and wives with arms folded, watching the woman they had trusted. Step into a car she couldn't talk her way out of, and I didn't feel triumph. Not really. I felt steadiness, like a plumb line finally stopped shaking. Trent stood on the clubhouse steps with his phone down. For the first time since I met him. Hannah's eyes were wet, and she didn't need to speak because I had her voicemail saved 3 ways. And as the cruiser with Vivian turned the corner, I found myself breathing all the way to the bottom of my lungs for the first time in days. After that, I ordered the wall, 10 feet of smooth white, designed to reflect heat and disappear into light vines. On my side, wildflowers planted along the base, because I don't want to live next to punishment. I want to live next to a clear sentence that reads the same in any weather. And while the permits moved the way permits move, I kept tending the field, listening to sprinklers and birds instead of rumors. And I thought about something that maybe only hits when you're standing in the middle of your own line. Standards without boundaries become weapons in the wrong hands, and boundaries without humanity turn into cages. So the trick is making a line that is honest and kind at the same time. Inside me, the arc tracked like a simple chart, powerless when a letter with a shiny seal pretended to be a law hurt, when my lock was scratched at 2 a.m., while I slept 20 feet away defiant, when I stacked facts like bricks and labeled them so I wouldn't lose my footing and control, when a live stream and a choice not to panic rerouted a story that could have broken me. And if you've been there, you know the shift the moment the bully realizes you've done the math. People ask if I forgive Vivian, and I'm not sure that's the first question. The first question is accountability. Does the system work when a person in a blazer uses a title like a crowbar? And on that morning, I watched an answer that felt like a clean line. Deputies doing their job paperwork meeting behavior, a community getting a look at itself in a mirror. It didn't ask for. A couple in their 60s waved me over later and apologized for signing the petition. Their hands were shaking, and they said they trusted her because she sounded like she knew. And I said thank you, nothing more, because sometimes that's all there is to say, without making it about you again. Hannah texted that she was running for president to rewrite bylaws with outside oversight, and a rule that says no HOA official can chase someone beyond the legal fence. And I told her if she wants to know what reasonable looks like from the other side, I'll walk the line with her and show her the survey pins. That night was quiet. The kind of quiet you choose sensors. Blinking green. The lock testing with a clean click, a flash drive in my pocket because I'm the sort of man now who keeps a copy and a backup of the truth. And across the line, porch lights burned soft like teeth, unclenching. And I stood there thinking walls aren't always about keeping people out. Sometimes they are about letting both sides live without constantly measuring each other. You want the last image. It's me at the fence line, a little dust on my boots, tomatoes staked in a neat row. First flowers on the vines that will climb. What I'm building my field, smelling like hose water and sun. And if you listen close, you can hear the difference between noise and warning. And I guess that's the thing. The warning wasn't that Vivian existed. The warning was what can happen when a neighborhood mistakes confidence for law. So tell me this, was I right to draw a 10-foot line, or did I build the wrong lesson into concrete? Are HOAs a necessary guardrail that jumped the curb here, or are they crowbars dressed up as clipboards more often than folks admit? Have you ever watched power try to talk you out of a fact your hands could touch? Drop your city and your local time, then give me your take. Did justice look like cuffs at 11:20 a.m., or does justice look like something else to you? And if you've got your own boundary story, the kind that leaves a mark you can still feel on a quiet night, lay it out below. I'm reading every single one.